Welcome to Tantrum House. I'm Kevin Delp.
And I'm Melissa Delp.
We're so happy you joined us today. We're going to be looking at The Grimm Forest. It's a game with simultaneous selection, resource gathering, and action cards, and it's only on Kickstarter until Friday, April 14th.
In the game, players are nieces or nephews of the three little pigs. Your goal is to be the first to build 3 houses, and there'll be lots of fairy tale characters that come along to help you, but there are also monsters and wolves lurking in the Grimm Forest.
Here are some of the prototype components. Locations where you gather resources, resource tokens, fable cards and friend cards, player boards and player minis. I painted mine. The ones in the game are unpainted. The Kickstarter has unlocked a bunch of stretch goals, including several other minis.
The game has 2 main phases, the gather phase and the build phase. And then there's a cleanup phase where you resupply the resources at the different locations. During the gather phase, each player secretly decides which location to visit, and then everyone simultaneously reveals their gather cards. If you're the only player to visit a location, you take all the resources at that spot. If more than one player goes to a location, everyone at the spot shares the resources.
It's not quite as straightforward as that. Players, before they play their gather card, can play a fable card, and those are also played secretly and then simultaneously revealed. A lot of fable cards are attacks like the wolf, who destroys resources, and a few offer protection like Chinny Chin Chin, which lets you move away from a monster.
During the build phase, players get 2 actions. They can take a resource, take a fable card, or build a section of a house. To build, you have to spend a certain amount of resources that match the type of structure you want to build: straw, wood, or brick.
The other main thing in the game is the friends cards. You can only have one friend at a time, and it's played face up in front of you. When you draw a friend card, you can either keep it or give it to another player.
Giving friend cards to other players can be a really strategic and tricky move, because if someone else has a really powerful friend, you can force them to discard it when you give them a new friend.
Now, there is a lot of player interaction with the fable cards and the friend cards, and at some point you'll probably have some of your resources stolen, or a location is going to be plagued by a monster.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the game is super mean, though, because most of those fable cards are played before the gather cards are revealed, so you don't always know who is going to be targeted. It could be several players, or it could miss and no one could get hit.
Now, that doesn't mean there's not a lot of strategy. There is strategy in the game. You're trying to figure out where players are going to be going. What locations are they going to go at to gather resources? Now, I could see Melissa over there. She's building her brick house, and all she needs to do is to build that roof on the brick house. So I'm thinking she's probably going to get more brick at the brickyard.
Yeah, unless I realize that Kevin has realized that that's where I want to go, so I decide to move somewhere else instead. So there's definitely a lot of situation reading and player reading in the game. If you decide just to bury your head into your own board and not pay attention to anyone else, you're probably not going to do well.
One of the real strengths and draws of this game is the artwork and theme. The house pieces are fun to play with, and the whole fairy tale world is interesting. And there are even minis for people who like to play with them and paint them. We painted these prototypes, and I know that the finished minis will be able to be painted so much better.
Yeah, I agree with Kevin that the theme really shines through in this game. I love that the different houses are different shapes. Like the wood looks like wood, and the straw looks like a little hut, and then the little brick house. And the pieces actually fit really well together when you're stacking them and building them. There are even special bonuses for when you build your walls, and a special bonus if you're the first one to build a type of structure. So there's a lot going on. There's different things you can do to try to get to those 3 buildings first.
Wow, what can I say? This Kickstarter has already made over, I think, $250,000. That is awesome. And if you haven't checked out the campaign on Kickstarter, I will put a link in the comments in the description below. And we appreciate you watching, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.